So we brought this afternoon session for you by 4 of us. Peter, Balázs, Tommy, and myself. And we want to first show you a story of a friendship that we started to evaluate in 2 years ago. And this is how it was working. We have the fortune that we have Ruben Tejero with us. The hero? Oh, maybe he's out. Okay. Okay. So 2 years before, in 2015, just a similar good Drupalathon it was, with a bit smaller shape, but that was still an awesome event. And that was the time when we met first and started to have a discussion on some cooperation. And we set up some milestones that we start this project. So first we were asked to provide a working prototype to how to make a tool which marketers and any non-techie users can put together hundreds of pages which are visually appealing and still easy to use and responsive and so on, these regular requirements. And after that, when we started the pilot project that was focusing only on rebuilding an already existing node page in our new system, and finally we just started to implement this Drupal-based solution. And as you can already saw, that was the legacy system, was a Microsoft API server. We just collected the requirements of this project to have a better overview. That's what we were focusing mostly on. I'm not reading up them because we have some more details infos on them. So flexibility means pre-designed section types. If you imagine like paragraphs, it has these paragraph types that we call sections, and editors can reuse them and recycle them every time when they need it. They can just use it anytime. The same stands for layout modes, which are already set up, so they don't need to scratch their heads that how does this content will fit and whatever, this mobile responsibility and whatever, because it's already provided. And because Tieto is a large global IT service provider with 13,000 employees around the world. So you can imagine that such enterprises has a very strict corporate guidelines. The branding is very strict. They have to follow rules that what colors they have on the palette and whatever. So that makes easier the job for editors. They don't need to select colors from a wide palette, but at the same time, it's somehow a limitation. Okay, reusability was meant to, we tried to do the minimal custom code, but you know that how this goes with Drupal, that you cannot avoid the custom code. It's just, sometimes it's just necessary to hack into a country module or whatever. So anyway, but we try to keep the level as minimal as possible. And we did this to being able to contribute back as much as possible to Drupal.org, because that was also a requirement from Tieto to give back to the community as much as we can. And security is just a regular Drupal security team. We hope the best when our first stable release will be rolled out. Then I can't wait to see that what the security team will say, that if they found any leaks in our code. Hopefully not, but maybe Tommy or Pedro knows it better. Okay, every investment on the long term should somehow return. So of course that it should be future-proof somehow. And we built as on this modern framework because you know, Drupal is 1 and almost 2 years old. So somehow we can call it as, Drupal 8, of course. And And we also built it on some Symfony components, just to avoid the client to feel themselves in vendor lock-in. Okay, we are a bit lazy, as usually programmers are, so we just want to make our job a bit easier, so we take care on maintainability. And it's also good for the clients, because a third-party contractor, they just want to audit their source code, what they use in their sites. So we have to open up the source code for them. And the cost effectiveness is also the same, that reusing parts is just saves money, avoid doing again and again. Okay. Just to summarize, the first thing that we realized that, okay, we are a bit techie people, but we are doing our job at the best, but there are some other industries and some other fields that there are some people who are doing their job on that fields much better than we can imagine. So we just said that leave the creative side to the creative people and not to try them to force something that which is very Drupal, very cubic and so on. So, and get to the market quickly. And we started with a lightweight MVP, to be a bit agile and evolve later on the times. Is anybody has a question on the scope of the project at the moment? If I not covered any questions? Not yet, maybe later, okay. The next section, we will have some minutes on revealing that why we were so, let's say, brave to make this decision that we built something on paragraphs and not using paragraphs itself. And because, of course, you can download the module, you can customize it and deliver to the client, but it's always a question that will it fit exactly to the client what they want, or they will just find some leaking edges that, oh, it's not totally like as I want. So finally just find yourself that, okay, I'm just doing all this customizing and finally you just lose the roots that where was this contrib module sometimes that you started to build top on it. So in this section, we have some points that we run through quickly. I think it's important for you, even if you are not maybe it's not backend development closely, but we'll talk it later. But it can be good for you to see that what lead us to this decision. Let's start with this competitor analysis, because we just went around on the market. Actually, that was Balázs Kantor's job, who did really an awesome time-consuming market research, that what other big players are on the market. Probably you know them. Is there any name that you don't know or haven't heard about them? Okay, so I assume that most of them, you know them. And you see that how much registered users they have and how many websites they are already reported to build with them. Of course, we didn't want it to compete with them. We took a bit narrower view and checked that what was with the one-page site creators. At the moment, at this point, I just stopped for a second and asking you that who knows who has any question that what is a one-page site? Is it clear for everyone that what we call a one-page site? Okay, I can just describe quickly. So when a vertical navigation happens on the same page, and it has some opening at the beginning, and it has some call to action at the bottom. So this landing pages used most times when some campaigns are just clicked and the user just actually lands, and we want them to move somehow vertically and leave on the stay on the same page and not leave to the other parts of the site. So it's not about navigation about all the entire site. It's just moving on the same page up and down, and then finally convert with the CTA button. So these pages provides some similar features, and so we took a look on them as well. And especially when some specialized site creators, you know, like Shopify for e-commerce or eHost for event organizing and so on. And of course, you can have the question that what other alternatives did we watch on Drupal. Later we will have a much better detailed comparison with them, so now just an example. So Balázs went through all these pages and just first looked how does the admin interfaces looks of these sites. Okay, it's a bit small, but later you can download the slides so you can zoom into them. These are just the admin interfaces, and these are some examples of how they solve this editing feeling that when you put together a page. You can see that someone is just mimicking the Photoshop style with some floating buttons and icons, and some others using this so adjustable, so customizable UI widgets and so on. So we just imagined these content creators inside of a big enterprise, and just do you imagine that a PR manager who has very few time to publish an article, will he move these widgets? Oh, I want the font size a bit bigger. Let's check it. F5, reload. Okay, get back. No, it's not that one. No, it's totally out of the question that we don't want something to make them force. Later on this slide, you can check this video. Now I just skip them, but it's a very good humoric that how they think about these features, some designer people. And so we analyzed more than 500 websites during this competitor analysis. And finally, we just arrived to an observation. Here you can see 3 different pages, snippets of pages. And Balázs just recognized that if you compare them, the layout is almost the same. Text, image, image, text, and it just happens on almost every pages. There's nothing new on Earth, so people just watching each other and trying to copy and do the same on their sites as well. So maybe we just tapped into some common section types. And of course you can have this list much longer, but the question was here to how to minimize the number of these most frequently possibly usable section types. So, for example, this opening a big header image on the top, customizable left-right image and text side blocks, also using columns, so you can control that how many columns you want beside each other. You can insert some decorational images. It's only just some separator or giving the feeling of the page. Simple text for longer texts, so paragraphs is after each other. I mean paragraphs of texts and not paragraph modules. And also some slogans or mottos that you can highlight with background, with the parallax effect already built in. Of course, they always want social links. Don't ask why, but they just love them. Some forms for doing this call to action when you can input some register or download some ebooks and so on. And of course, we have embedded leaflet-based maps as well. So you may ask that, okay, we just want them to force into something that we imagined and we believe that it will work. But it's not true every time when we believe in designing. So we really encourage the uniqueness, but here in this project scope, it was not really needed to be uniqueness. We have some examples of how does it can look now. For example, on our very fresh release website, you can see that it's real-life examples that it's usable in multiple use cases. These are some case studies on our site, and you can see that all the CSS is just harmonized and on the entire page. But you can use this white background stuff and just fits all the same as well. But the section types behind them are still the same. And later on, we just arrived at this point that, okay, but what to do with the administration interface in Drupal, which is not a champion on the market. And so Balázs made a UX pin that I really hope that now I'm able to show you, and you can check also because it's public. So first we just demonstrated to the clients that how does it could work in the future, so they can imagine that what they are paying for. And you can see that this preview window and so on and so on. So we just not jumped into something that they cannot understand, but we just provided them how it will look like. Okay, get back to the view, and that will okay. Good. And when I was talking about uniqueness, that was a reason why we had no room now here for uniqueness, because they had a very strict corporate identity. On this column, you can see it's a Word document actually, describing that how does the spacing, how the padding, the margins, even the last 5 pixels should be set up for between 2 paragraphs and so on. It's very, very detailed. So we just took this text and told our front-end developers that, okay, just write the CSS fitting exactly for these rules, and that will be that was the outcome. Somehow it's easy to work such a strict guidelines, but sometimes it just makes headaches because they really want to control almost everything. And today, this page serves more than 100 campaign sites. The interesting thing was that after the launch, it was just boosting up. And still, Ruben yesterday reported me that he still receives emails from employees that they are feeling proud that they can easily use this administration interface. And I think it makes us really happy that people just started to like something that they have to use, and it's not a headache for them. Okay, if you have any questions about this UX part, or you just want to have a better understanding how we hit this decision, then feel free to ask Balázs after this presentation. And now I give the mic to Pedro, who will dig deeper in the backend part.
Okay, so we are really proud of the front end and all the design part of this work, but I'm personally mostly proud of the contribution we made, because as Tieto pushed us toward making open source everything, we did that because there are no closed source parts in the project. And this led to a lot of patches, experimental modules, and of course the parade module itself. So the whole thing is made public on Drupal.org, and not all of these which are listed here are tightly related to this project, but most of them are related to other work what we do for Tieto, and I'm really happy that we could share this, and we also learned that it's worth it. So it's not just okay, but if we want to make this open source, that will be extra work and extra headaches, because the community will just write us questions and so on and so on. But at the end, it's much better for maintainability. At the end, it results in better quality. So the whole we changed during these 1.5 years. We really changed our mindset. So thank you again, Ruben, for pushing us towards this. And I just want to encourage all of you to do not create custom code. Always think in contribution and push it back to the community. So, of course, there were more. Okay. So, but of course there were some challenges, because when you earlier when we created contrib modules, there were mostly API modules. So like some kind of integrations to different systems like payment gateway and so on. But Parade is different because Parade is more like a product. It has its own. It has to have its own vision. So and we, of course, this vision will not fit to everybody. So we had to decide whether we create some kind of I don't know. We try to contribute everything to the paragraphs module, which is the base foundation of this whole thing, or we go separately. But what we will answer to the community when they ask that, okay, but how to insert, I don't know, inline styling and how to change everything. And yes, we had to think about a clear vision, what we are heading for. And we had to answer to these questions like, no, you won't be able to use inline styles. This is not our concept. We want to restrict these kind of things. We don't want to go, for example, for embedded images. Maybe with media embed, someday we will support that, but not with the classical one to just, you know, have the insert button in the CK editor and put every crap into the code. This is not all about this. So at the end, I think hopefully we find the right balance between these specific questions. And now it's not beta 1, but yesterday beta 2 was released also. So we are closing to RC and stable. Okay, and now, of course, before we and during we worked, we checked all the similar modules in the Drupal ecosystem, because there are a lot of these kind of flexible layout building modules. So, for example, there is text. It's a very interesting approach, but it's somehow, I felt always the redundancy on this. It's not really widely used, and there was one strong requirement that we had to use revisions for all the things, because in such a large organization, of course, they have content workflows. Someone writes the content, another one will review it, and only after that it can be published. So, and everything must be tracked. So revision support was not complete in stack, so we abandoned this. Then there is bricks, which is also very interesting. Somehow, with the submodule, it already supports reference revisions, but there is still an open issue about this. And what's interesting with bricks, that they created a bridge that can use paragraphs inside a bricky page. So this is not like a concurrent module, or not another thing, but it's like if you find that paragraphs or parade is not enough for you, you want to create even more complicated, more complex layouts, then bricks might help you in that, and you can still insert paragraphs inside it. So we did not need this, but it's interesting. There are plans that paragraphs in the future will implement all the features of bricks. So if we wait, maybe we won't need this, but until that point, it's still an interesting option. Then there is Penalizer. I'm not really a fan of Penalizer because the admin UI is, I think it's too complex. In this case, for us or for the content editors, it would be too much simply. So, of course, so in this case, it was not the winner, but in some cases, it can do a lot. For example, like putting views into some kind of small panel panes and dropping the layout together. So it's super flexible, but of course it can break. So the users can break the layouts easily with it. So it's of course with the great power comes great responsibility, as always. So at the end, we approached paragraphs, and I can only say good words about that great module. It's super flexible, stable, absolutely well maintained, and so already there are a lot of paragraph kits or other modules which are leveraging the great flexibility of it. So this is the base concept, that paragraphs allows you to create reusable sections or paragraph types, and from there you can build safely nodes which have different layouts. There was actually one module, this landing page framework, which was released in a short time after we had released our parade module, and it's very similar to our concept. It's also, as the name says, it's for creating landing pages, but in the thinking, or in the, I think with the target group or in the vision, it's a little bit different. It allows you to put in inline styles, and so it gives you more flexibility, but in a way what we wanted to avoid. And also it implements features such as the view mode support or style customization in a custom way. And we always prefer to use other modules which are already there. So we did not want to reinvent the wheel. So we used a view mode selector module for view mode support, and we use classic paragraphs for style customizations. And what are the added features? In our solution, we added the menu support, so the vertical navigation. We added or packaged JS libraries for smooth scrolling and parallax effects, and we implemented a submodule which we will try out today, hopefully. It's about restricting the view modes, the styles related to layout, and the styles related to color scheme. And this way, the editors are forced to use only the style guide compatible, well implemented and tested combinations of these. And at the end, we also implemented automated tests. They are bundled in the module, so they are PHP unit functional tests. So this is it, but for example, the landing page framework has some kind of experimental support for this Geyser UI, which is an alternative of in-place editing, because in-place editing, Drupal 8 in-place editing doesn't work with the paragraphs module yet. And this is another approach. And we also would like to have something similar to in-place editing in the future, but in a combination of strict revisioning and workflow. There are some conceptual questions that how we should handle the in-place edit, where then afterwards we need to create a new revision and start a content moderation workflow. So you can imagine if you edit multiple paragraphs, then how to handle it. Should they be separate new revisions, or so it's a bit complicated. So now we focus on enhancing the classic admin UI, but later on we will try to implement something. So I think I can give pass back the mic to Balu, so we can continue. That was about the backend stuff.
Thank you, Peter. Um, this eye-catching animation is the demo content, so this is why it's eye-catching. And this is what you will try to install during this workshop. And as every project, of course, we also have future plans, because why not to dream big? The one thing that is a real-life requirement to make the system able to define domain names for each content pages, which does not necessarily means that you have a multi-site Drupal. It just means redirection handled on the backend side, that every domain is served by as a node. Also, the marketers just want to have different Google Analytics tracking codes per each node entities, which if you think that how the Google Analytics working now in Drupal, then it's a bit somehow off the track, so we have to provide a solution for that one. And file uploads, which is already working in production, but we want to contribute back to be a part of the parade. And of course, more predefined paragraph types. For example, top-bed contents. You know that people just want to make switching panes. For example, prices, when you can make a subscription and you can choose medium and large packages. So they just want to have these tabs. Slider, because it's so awesome. And charts. And the good things with charts, that we had a very good improvement also already in production, that now infographics can be automatically generated from the Drupal interface with fields, and I think personally it's really, really looking good. Okay, supporting font awesome icons, because icons are king, and in place edit that Peter described, it's a bit tricky, but we will figure out something, I'm sure. And animations, as always, because people just love animations. Okay, any questions till this moment about what this Parade product is? No one? Okay, so I hope that it's a bit clear for you too. Because now I'm jumping to the next section, something different, which is not part of Parade, although you can try today during this workshop. Because we had a different and also a contrib module ported back on Drupal.org, this A/B test UI, which at the beginning I really want to just ask you that who knows what the marketers call A/B testing? Okay, half of the room knows. So the favor of the others, I can just summarize that you know, there is a term that marketers usually say, that the budget that you spend on advertising, the half is just put on the window. So the good note to know which part is going flushed and which is the returning part. So they always just want to know that, okay, if I put the subscribe icon on the left side or the right side, which is better, which the people likes better or understands and clicks more. So they had this concept that the URL is the same, but half of the random visitors are just served with variation A, and the other part of the visitors receiving the different version of the same page. And the good thing that the people don't know about them, there is an other variation existing besides their own. So it's a bit hard, because in Drupal, you know, every content entity is served under one node URL, URL alias, I mean. So first, that was a thing that we needed to solve. Let's say that you have some URL path and it has no anything on the end. You know, imagine it's a regular basic page or any content type, it doesn't matter. You have just this node entity. And then you make a clone of it and make some differences, some changes, modifications, and put a suffix on the end of the URL path, so you can know that, okay, that's the second edition. And with this module, you can, okay, you have these two nodes with the different titles, and this module provides you an interface that you can set together test definitions, building on at least 2 URL pairs. So it can be version C and D and whatever, so the minimum 2. And you can define test cases. The base URL is the original version of your node, so there is no changing on them. And also you can define in the end, I'm not sure that you can see, but if you download the slides at the end, you will see that you can define the percentage of how much of your visitors randomly should sorted seeing variation A or B or whatever. So maybe you are not half cutting the visitors into half, but 2/3 seeing the A and 1/3 seeing only the version B. Okay, here you can see the different endings in the URL path. It's important. And once you are finished with the test definition saving, then the test is started to running. You can easily check it if you use your browser's incognito window. Why do we recommend to use incognito window? Because we store in a cookie that what version the visitor already seen from that browser session. And next time when he returns back, we want to deliver the same version to them, just to not confuse them. So it's a bit easier, I think, for them to believe that there is only one version of the content they already seen. And if you use incognito window, then the cookies are restored, so you can check that open, 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 and then you will see that once time you get the A and one time you get the B. Okay, and that's only the serving, the content, but marketers just want to see the measurements. So with this module, we just delivered together some suggestions that how you can set up Google Analytics. But who ever heard about Pivik, a competitor of Google Analytics? Good. As Pivik tries to follow the technology that Google Analytics already set up, for example, this UTM tagging and any other variable names, then now we are trying to figure it out that if Pivik is also compatible with this A/B test UI module. So we will see. But yeah, okay, so you've seen this, how you can click together this page, but probably that will be not your job, so the marketers can do them for themselves. Okay, so A/B test UI, as I said, is also a contrib module. Feel free to download and hack it around and report back any thing that you want to ask about it. So we reach the end soon, the presentation. So the hands-on starts in a couple of minutes. So please let me to summarize these minutes that we were discussing. The first, that Parade, we believe it's a product. It's not a framework. It's not a tool that you can build on top of. Of course, you can fork it and you can build even more on the top, but we believe that Parade is already the top of the stack. And we believe that it's easy to use. Yeah, we hope that it's easy to use for non-techie people, unbreakable, UI targeted, and for non-technicians. That was the goal. And it's already pre-configured, sorry. So you just need to enable the demo content submodule, and you will see that in action. And the future goals of this for us to still stay together with stick together to the flexibility of Drupal and follow the Drupal way, so not just implementing something different. And interoperability is also a high priority because paragraph types, as Pedro said, that is always evolving. It's very well maintained. And actually, we are in a good relation with Miro Dietikar, the lead maintainer of paragraphs. So we are really close to see that what's way they go, and then we can react with Parade as well. So that's a nice blue slide, just to relax you. And we have some key takeaways. Okay. I just repeat, Peter, that go open source, but I think it's nothing new for you. Already in this room, you know that. and it's a product. We just want to pack it, and it's good for companies using having a good corporate identity, strictly guidelined and rules. So it's easy for the front-enders to say that what CSS properties they have to code and not figuring out. Okay, thanks for your attention. Now we have a couple of minutes of break just to have your mind relaxed, and we are really waiting you back to put your hands on and start to hack it around. Thank you again.